Hello, welcome to Kenty Prime Time. Paul Kent here with you today. Going to start today's show with just a little bit of an apology. I did sort of like tease earlier in the week that I was going to be joined by Jeff Fenech, Australia's greatest fighter, as a bit of a preview towards Tim Tszyu's fight this weekend in Newcastle. Jeff, unfortunately, Jeff has had a little bit of a problem at home, a little bit of family trouble. So, Jeff, our thoughts are with you there, mate. But in the absence of Jeff, I've gone out and I went for Australia's second greatest ever fighter. I couldn't find him, so I've gone down the list and I've ended up with Rick Timperi. So I've got Rick Timperi here joining me today with Johnny Elias. We're here. We're going to talk about a little bit of boxing. We're going to talk about a little bit of Rick's career. We're going to talk a little bit of footy. Rick apparently is a bit of a player in his day. For those who don't know, Rick is a two-time Australian Olympic boxing captain. Went to 2 Olympics, captained both Olympic teams on the way. A very accomplished fighter. And Rick, welcome, mate.
Welcome, buddy.
Welcome. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks. A little bit of a problem.
Little bit of a
No
problem.
problem.
Yeah. So, look, I won't say how far down the list I had to go before we came up with you, but Jeff was got to come in today, but rang me last night and said, look, I've got some stuff going on, I can't get here, so we'll move on. Jeff, hope everything turns out okay, mate, for you. Rick, the fight this week, Tim Tszyu, what are your thoughts?
To be honest, mate, I think it's a bit of a tough fight to take. I wouldn't take it if I was fighting. It's a 2-horse race. He's had 2 not so good fights in the last 2 fights, and everyone else does it, mate. Pick your opponents, have an easy fight. I know he doesn't want to, but it's your sport, it's your profession. You're a professional fighter. I was an amateur. I didn't get a choice. I had the fighter who was in front of me, but professionals get a choice. That's
the interesting thing, isn't it? Because you sit there now, and he is trying to rebuild his career. And in one respect, it's admirable that he wants to fight somebody who he's fighting Joey Spencer, who is a formidable opponent. His record is 19-1, so he's not a bum, and he's a guy. I think this is the most important thing: who's hungry. He's not a guy who's been brought out, who's had 6 losses, who's just hanging around the ratings but never really going to get a shot. Joey Spencer still thinks he's on the way up as a fighter. He's still got ambition. He's using Tim as a stepping stone to get to those world title fights, which is the significant part. He's not here to lose the fight, so to speak.
You're right. They're both here to win, mate. And I'm sure Tszyu will want to win, and I'm sure Spencer will want to win, and that's going to be for a good fight. Unfortunately, in boxing, you can't have 2 people that want to win. One of them is going to have to get out of the way of the other.
Rick, I'm not a sporting or boxing aficionado, but I want to know, honestly, Joey Spencer, what has he got in his repertoire to beat?
He can punch, and you're 10 seconds away from losing every time you get in the ring. So if someone can punch and you can't go swimming without getting wet, mate, sooner or later in that ring, it's a very lonely place. You're going to get hit.
Is there a height difference, Paul or Rick, between these two?
Height doesn't mean
The
much,
reason
mate.
why I asked this, because the last 2 fights he's lost Tszyu, they're much taller than him.
Yeah, I don't think that's the issue.
No,
John.
I know that, but who's the taller fighter here? I'm just curious.
I don't. The weight's pretty even, like it is.
Okay,
The weight division, and some people have styles that doesn't suit other people. And
Paul, do you give Spencer, because you know a lot about boxing, Paul, yourself.
I'll give Spencer a good chance.
And why?
Spencer's a really neat fighter. He's a really tidy fighter. Yeah. He punches neat. When I say punches neat, I mean he punches short. He doesn't wind up and swing wildly.
Oh, okay.
He just punches like a really well-trained fighter does. It's just straight from the shoulder. They're nice and short. But the thing about Spencer, I think Spencer's slower than Tszyu, so I think Tszyu will be able to outbox him.
Okay. But
I think Spencer's got the advantage in power. And as we saw in Tszyu's last fight against the Russian, he is susceptible to the left hook. The left hook caught him every time. And I think Spencer's going to sit on that. I think you throw a combination, Rick, you know this, you throw a combination, and the old school boxing, one of the old school boxing laws is you throw a combination and it always has to end with a left hook. And that's very
hand right or something.
Yeah.
A dominant punch. But
yeah, and that's
good to know.
Tszyu kept getting caught with that punch. And I think there was a period in that first round in his last fight where he got hit with a left hook. And you can see his eyes change a little bit. He went from being the predator to the prey, so to speak, in his eyes. And from that moment, he was clearly hurt. You could see him react to the punch like it did hurt him, like, oh, shit, I didn't expect that. And from that moment on, the whole dynamic of the fight changed. And you could see the Russian sort of walking forward on him and approaching him. He was the one who is doing the stalking after that.
Okay.
And typically that's Tim's role. Tim's the one that does that.
I'm sure both camps have done their homework, Paul. I'm talking like being a rugby league man. I'm sure both teams have done their homework. So if both teams have done their homework and he's worried about the left jab, Tszyu, has Spencer got anything else?
Spencer's got power.
He's got power, mate. And when you come off 2 losses, you need to get your confidence back up because, as you said, you're right, spot on, mate. He lost a bit of confidence, and when the bloke felt it, you can feel in the ring after the first 30 seconds as a fighter, or the first 10 seconds. You know when you feel his power and he feels your power, you know who's going to go where.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's very personal.
There's nothing worse than thinking he hits harder than me.
100%.
Well, look, I'm just talking from I'm just being a devil's advocate. The bookies have got Tszyu heavy favourite.
Yeah.
Look at the other bloke is big outsider. Rick or Paul, would you be
Johnny, they're the
surprised?
Australian bookies.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But would you be surprised if Spencer won?
I'd be very disappointed and I'd be very sad.
No, I wouldn't be surprised.
But I wouldn't be
Okay,
surprised
that's
at
what I
all.
wanna-
I wouldn't be surprised.
Wouldn't be
at all.
surprised.
So, John, but this is the other thing, right?
Yeah.
So Tszyu's picked Spencer because they think he can win the fight, right? They believe he'll win the fight.
Who's Tszyu? Tszyu's camp.
Tszyu's camp
Okay.
believe he'll win the fight. And they've always got a lot of praise, okay? They've got a lot of praise for being able to pick the right opponents. Right back to when Kostya fought as well. They've got praise for picking the right opponents. But they've got it wrong the last 2 fights.
You see, Rick spoke about that earlier. When you're a professional fighter, you can pick your fights.
Yeah.
Okay. But they've accepted the fight, the Spencer camp. Why? Honestly,
Because they're using it as a stepping
It's a
stone.
stepping
so they
stone.
honestly believe they
Two
can beat
things.
Tszyu.
Well, that's one reason.
Yeah.
And the other reason, he'll make more money by fighting Tszyu than he would if he fought another American.
Oh,
because
okay.
he'll have access to the Australian
Okay.
pay-per-view audience.
I'm blind
So-
to all this. This is good to know.
So
Okay.
from a money point of view, he makes more money by fighting Tszyu than just another American. He's on pay-per-view. He probably wouldn't be in America. But the flip side is they think he can win the fight. They honestly, he's not a fighter here brought out to be strictly an opponent, so to speak. We do see that sometimes where guys at all levels are brought out basically, look, we'll get through this guy. We need to keep busy. We need a fight to keep busy. This is not one of those fights. This is a fight with a guy who will sit there and go, okay, he'll have his own plan to win. He's already blown up about the judges, which I tend to agree with. Like, he asked for independent judges. They wanted one Australian judge, one neutral, and 3 Australian judges. So I think he knows where it's heading.
Yes. But for him to ask for 3 Australian judges,
No, he wanted independent judges.
yeah, no, sorry,
Yeah.
but the Tszyu camp's got 3 Australian judges, so they're a bit worried, Paul.
Well, I don't know. Look, they just claim they probably got the cheapest available, but yeah,
Oh, okay.
they didn't have to
See,
fly
okay.
much in.
What,
Okay.
what do you mean the cheapest? The best
Well,
available?
well,
It's supposed to be the best
Well, it's
available?
supposed to be,
So I'm
but
naive to all
wouldn't-
this.
they probably didn't want to fly an American judge in.
Yeah, I
Both
think
the
the
cost.
thing is that, you know, as you said, one's a stepping stone, and in this fight, they're both stepping stones for each other.
Yeah.
So there's not one a stepping stone for the other. They're
Okay.
both.
Okay.
Whoever wins goes forward. Whoever loses, unfortunately, is going to have
I
to take
gotcha.
a sidestep.
Paul, you're very close. We all are. Johnny Lewis. Have you spoken to him about this fight? And who does he think?
I haven't, but no, I haven't spoken to Johnny about it yet. I generally wait till a couple of days before the fight.
Okay.
Johnny's a very good judge.
Very good. That's why I
as
asked.
we know. Yeah, Johnny's got a lot of faith in Tim, though. Johnny's got a lot of. He thinks he's he can bounce back. He thinks he
Okay.
can come back. Jeff Fenech is the opposite. Jeff's had
Wow.
a crack at the Tszyu camp through this fight. He should be. What was his line? That they should be putting red noses because they're all clowns. Well, that's what he said. That's what he said, right? Because he doesn't believe.
I love Jeff. He
they
speaks
know-
his mind.
Well, he doesn't believe they know what they're doing.
Okay.
In effect, which is a pretty big call because, as I said earlier, the Tszyu camp, they get a lot of credit for being able to pick the right opponents. But they have got it wrong the past 2 fights. Certainly the last fight they got it wrong. The Fundora fight, he got that horrific head cut.
Yes.
But they made an error in the corner, which we all pretty much now acknowledge that they didn't ask for the fight to be stopped. because
Correct.
it came
And he was
from
in front.
Well, it was an illegal blow, and they could have gone to the cards. At worst, it could have been a draw for
At
him.
worst, a draw.
A
Yeah.
draw because they didn't get through enough rounds.
Okay.
But they decided to push on. They made an error there, but it's had a significant effect on his career. It's really knocked him back. The last fight was supposed to be the comeback fight, and he got knocked out in 3 rounds.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. From your point of view, do you ever get knocked out in a fight?
Touch wood, never been knocked off my feet.
What? Never knocked off your feet.
No, one hand touched the ground once because I was big noting about never being knocked down. And, I headbutted a punch in Samoa. I headbutted a punch accidentally.
Rick, I know you said, well, Paul said earlier, he introduced you, 2 Olympics, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Did you meet anyone famous over there?
Oh, I met lots of famous people. The most famous, which I can talk to anyone, but I was in the food hall in Atlanta, and I'm walking through the door, and someone bumped into me, and I looked up, and it's Muhammad Ali, mate, and he was shaking, and he goes, "Kangaroo," and I go, "Yeah, kangaroo."
So you're lost for words.
Couldn't talk.
In Atlanta.
And you are an extrovert. I know you are. You can talk to anyone, anytime, and you were lost for words.
But as a boxer, I imagine,
mate, it's
of
like
all
he's
people
royalty.
run into Muhammad Ali.
I just bumped him, and
would be number one.
Yeah.
And and then I just couldn't. I couldn't talk, mate. I couldn't. I was just in awe, and he's a big man, but he's a bit shaky. And then he come
kangaroo.
out. He just kangaroo.
Wow.
One of my mates met Muhammad Ali once, and he said that he was surprised how big he was.
He's giant of a man.
Yeah.
Now
Because he wasn't a big heavyweight by today's standards either.
Yeah,
but he was a big man, wasn't he?
just but the presence too. If he was 5 foot tall, he'd look 7 foot tall.
Yeah.
And he was about 6 foot something, so he looked about 8 foot something.
Yeah,
But he was over 6 foot. What was his height, Paul?
No, he was about 6'2", Ali.
That's really not. No.
But when he won the heavyweight title against Sonny Lister, he only weighed a touch over 90 kilos.
Yeah.
He wasn't a big man. He was very young, like small and lean then as a heavyweight.
I think he won it.
And heavyweights are smaller back then than they are now.
I think he won it before he got in the ring with Sonny Liston, but I think he won it because he had self-belief.
Yeah.
He was fast, and he called him a few names, and I think Sonny Liston had lost him.
Paul and Rick, for people like myself, don't know. I'm not too much about boxing. What's the weight division of a heavyweight?
In amateur, it's over 91, but
and what's in professional?
It's 91 up.
Just so they know. Is it 90 and over? I don't know. I'm just being just for the people listening.
See, John, the first lesson of this is you don't ask questions we don't know the answers to, right? So 175 pounds is a heavyweight.
Okay.
And 190 pounds is is the cruiserweight limit, I believe. And so anything over 190 pounds
open
is heavyweight. Now to convert it back into kilos, well, just go out and figure that out yourself. I can't do that, but but that's where it's at. But
just curious.
Now they're all walking in like. For example, Tyson Fury walks in. He walks in 130 kilos.
That's a big man.
Okay, that's a big guy, and he walks around 6'10". Yeah.
So you can start from a certain weight and goes to whatever.
There's no limit.
There's no limit.
But obviously, you get to the stage where you're too big.
You're too big and can't carry
exactly,
it.
exactly.
No worries.
So Rick, we'll go back into the boxing a little bit later. But you've got a storied rugby league career.
Yeah,
it's primarily a rugby league podcast. So just tell us how great you really were as a rugby league player.
That's why I took up boxing. No, I was pretty good.
What do you mean pretty good?
Go on, you're pretty good. Don't be modest.
I like a bit of
What
confidence.
position first? What position?
Outside centre, I said use all after. When I was playing, there was an outside centre.
Outside centre?
There wasn't outside centre when I was playing.
Yeah.
Only one. You guys use your hands to catch the ball, and I use my hands to try and render you unconscious. That's a mix in the football field. That's a mix.
Yeah.
Did you play league and union?
Yeah, I play both, yeah.
And what did you prefer? What do you like more?
Rugby league. I like rugby league.
And why?
More goals on the sidelines. I don't know, because it's just easier to
Totally
play.
Different game. Easier
totally
to
different
play,
game,
pick up.
easier to play. And there's too many. It just keeps moving. The bloody union just keeps moving.
So you said you played centre. See, obviously you had speed.
Oh, yeah. I was
You're very
fast.
quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just didn't choose to run much. That's why I took up boxing.
Okay.
And having friends like you.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
It allows you to keep your hands
now,
up.
on a serious note, Rick.
Yes.
We talk about your boxing career. We talk about
no regrets, mate.
No regrets. A lot of people don't know you're very successful in what you've done post boxing.
Thank you.
And they don't know that you're a stonemason artist, of course.
Yeah.
You run a big company.
Yeah, big restoration company specialist.
Yes, but they also don't know that you at school you were dyslexic. Correct?
I'm dyslexic now, mate.
No, I'm being serious. No,
I am.
Dyslexic.
I am. Yeah.
Seriously, to be that and to run this multi-million-dollar business, it must have been very daunting.
Look, life's daunting, mate. There's no instruction in life. I've been married. I've got kids now. It's just there's no book on life. You just got to do what you think's right and wrong, and just have. I think they should teach at school and at life skills: integrity, loyalty, honour.
Yeah.
Your word, your bond. It's all changed these days. No one's got accountability, mate. There's no accountability. So you can say whatever you like on a keyboard or on a computer, and Mate, in my day, when I was growing up, if you said something wrong, someone would slap you in the head and then you go, oh, I've got to pull up.
Did you learn that from
Accountability.
school? Or did you learn that from sport? Or did you get that out of your boxing career?
Sport and boxing, mate. You know, they say boxers
When did
are
you
all-
start fighting?
My dad came out from Italy. I'm Australian of Italian descent. Now, I'm Australian first of Italian descent. Now, my dad came out here and there was a heyday of boxing. They had the Sydney Stadium, the Leichhardt Stadium, and boxing was a mega sport, right? And they used to hang around Darlinghurst and Galooty, and it was a big sport.
Yeah.
That was a big sport in the 60s and 50s, and you know. And when he always liked me boxing, and I went down to Leichhardt gym, and then I went to Lithgow gym, and then I went to Newtown gym. I trained with John Lewis, trained with Jeff Fenech, I trained with all the boys. Boxing's a very small community, mate. We all know each other. I was in the 91 World Titles, World Championships in Homebush with Costa Tszyu. We're quite close. His son now fights. But, you know, you got to remember where you come from, too. You can't say on TV, what's my effing name, when you wouldn't be fighting that level if it wasn't for your father's name.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
That's a funny one, isn't it?
It's a
Yeah,
funny
you
one,
touch-
mate.
touch
You're
on something there.
he's his own person. But remember that if it wasn't for your name, wasn't for your promoters, and like Mundine done the same thing too a bit. Like there was, you know,
But you could argue
there's
Mundine,
different levels.
Be proud.
You
from
could
where
argue
come from.
Mundine surpassed his father as a fighter.
Well, did he?
he
Well,
won-
Mundine
he
fought.
won world titles.
Yeah, but when Tony was fighting, there was three. There was one world division in each division. He fought Monzon, mate. That,
I know he fought
Different level,
Monzon, but I get that. But he's still. I would say if you put Anthony Mundine's record up against his father's record, Anthony's would look far superior. Whereas if you put Tim's up against Kostya's, yeah,
Different league.
It's different league. Yeah.
different league, mate. 100%. And you know, Costa fought amateur. I think you'd be able to tell me nearly 300 fights.
200, well, look, it's a bit sketchy. Some people, what I heard, and speaking to Kostya years ago, he had 270 amateur fights, 270. And he won 259. Only lost 11 fights his whole amateur career, which is significant. Other people, you'll if you Google it, it'll say he had 259 all up. Who knows? But that said, like I remember when that 1990 World Championships. So Rick 91 World Champions here in Sydney at Homebush out there, and I remember talking to people, and back then there was a kid that just came through. Now Bill Morty signed Kostya Tszyu out. You fought at those World Championships.
Yep. I got through the quarters. Yeah.
What you got the quarters?
I beat the Romanian, then I beat a bloke from Canada. Then a bloke from Canada beat me.
Yeah.
But now this is Styles. This will answer your question, Styles. So his name was I can't remember his name anyway. And had too many fights. Dale Brown, his name was.
Yeah.
But so I'd go to a tournament and Dale Brown would be beat by the Korean champion. I come out and bash the Korean. I go to another tournament and fight Dale Brown. He beats me on points.
Yeah.
I go to another tournament. He gets beat by this English champion.
Yeah.
I come out the next night, bash the English champion.
Yeah.
I go to another tournament. Dale Brown beats me. So it's Styles,
He
see?
kept beating you, yeah.
So
Styles.
if anyone beats him, I can beat them. But he used to beat me on just different styles. Styles,
What did you struggle with?
discipline, I suppose.
No, but what was the style?
I was just
What was his
lanky and just I was just awkward, man. I just couldn't. I used to tie you up, and then they'd stop the momentum, and I need momentum.
Yeah.
So and then I'd start doing something, and then the ref would say stop it, and I go, oh man, I've got to start again.
Yeah.
So it's just
So
Styles.
those World Championships, 1991, the big fighter that was going to those World Championships at the time was the American Vernon Forrest, okay? And he was the guy that had superstar written all over him. He was going to be the future of boxing. The Americans were on the comeback in the boxing scene on that amateur level after a couple of failures earlier in Olympic years.
Mm.
But then what happened was Kostya Tszyu...
Bill Morty saw that.
But Vernon Forrest went into the ring against Kostya Tszyu.
Yeah.
And what happened in that fight? Because you
Never
were
laid
there.
a glove on him. Costa Tszyu outclassed him, outboxed him, out everything.
Yeah.
And Bill Morty
And Forrest couldn't hit him.
couldn't hit him. And he had his hands down and couldn't hit him.
Yeah.
My hand-eye coordination, movement, lateral, sideways swinging.
So when you're in the crowd there, like you're in amongst it with all the other fighters, and you're all looking out. I imagine some of you looking out through the tunnel or whatever, and you see a guy like Kostya Tszyu fight. Who, I remember one of his trainers once, one of his Russian trainers back in the day, said this kid's been touched by God. Just because of his natural instinct as a fighter. When you guys, as other amateurs at the World Championships, you're all very accomplished yourselves. I watched a guy like Kostya Tszyu. What was the chat about?
Oh, he just goes, shit, that's the other level. Like,
Yeah.
I was always a walk up fighter, a bit angry. I'm always happy,
Yeah.
but 10 minutes before the fight, it's like Jekyll and
Aggressive.
Hyde. I just turn into,
Yeah.
don't talk to me.
Yep.
Rick, sorry, Paul. How many amateur fights did you have?
About 250 to
250.
300.
The reason why I
so,
asked that-
I had 50 one year,
Okay.
49.
The reason I asked that, did you ever consider going professional?
I did, mate. I did.
Oh,
But
okay.
I had a good business. I had a mortgage.
Yeah.
I had things to, I had mortgage repayments to make.
Yep.
So I did want to fight for nothing, and
Okay.
that's what was on offer. And I beat a few of the Commonwealth champions,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a few of the Australian champions as an amateur, and it's just it's a really hard sport. When I don't know if I'm too intelligent to be a fighter or whatever, but I'd say, man, you want me to fight for nothing? I'd rather fight for my country.
Yeah.
And because I don't know, I just said nah. And I used to retire in between Olympics.
So you never had an
have 2
offer
years off.
to fight
I
professionally?
had a couple of offers. I thought
Oh,
about
okay.
turning and then just thought, what the heck? I'll just go to another Olympics if I can.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So, and you trained at a period there. You did train at the Newtown PCYC, the police boys there, which is famous now. It was
That was a mecca, mate. That was a mecca for boxing. It was the biggest.
So who was there when you were training? When you trained there?
Jeff Fenech, Jeff Harding, Peter Matreski Sr., Joe Bugner. I think what's the other bloke that came out? Virgil Hill.
Virgil Hill, the American.
Lewis.
He was the American light heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he
Johnny Lewis.
came out to train with Johnny Lewis.
Johnny Lewis. Yeah, man. We had even Manning Hinton, which rest his soul, and
Yeah.
and
Manny took over Harding
Brian,
towards the end of his career.
Yeah, and Brian Mormont was there as a trainer. I look at the ring and they're still there now, mate. It's a big industry.
What was
mate.
it like in those days? Was there a lot of egos in the dressing room?
Mate, we're all friends. We're all friends. We'll just once you bleed together with people, you become like really close friends. And
Absolutely.
there's a friendship, and mate, everyone's struggling to make weight. Fenech used to be mate. He used to make his weight. Used to make it so tough, but when he got in the ring, he'd probably be 3 or 4 kilos heavier than the other bloke. I used to walk around 87 when I fought at 81, dehydrate 6 kilos. In the morning, I'd be 81 in an amateur fight and get in the ring at 87 kilos.
Yeah.
So that's
Wow.
that's what weight is so important.
Yeah. I'll tell you a great story about Fenech. Fenech was the best at getting weight off. Okay, I don't think there's ever been
Something
a
to do with
fighter anywhere in the
potatoes?
world. No, he used to. What his diet was, he used to boil potatoes
Yes.
in water, right? Obviously in water, but he used to boil potatoes and then drink the water. He didn't eat the potatoes; he just drank the water. That was what he used to eat, just to get the little bit of energy out of the potatoes
Yeah,
that sort of
yeah.
seeped into the water.
Oh.
When he fought Stu McCrory, remember Stu McCrory was so Fenech went to the '84 Olympics and they got robbed against
Coffee or
the
something.
Romanian. And no, Stu McCrory won the gold medal. The American won the
That's
gold
right.
medal. Okay. So Bill Morty, his promoter being Bill, said, okay, when Fenech got to the world title, he got there faster than McCrory and all the rest of it. So what he did is he put up Fenech's world title and got McCrory to come to Australia to take the fight.
Oh,
And
okay.
McCrory wanted to win a belt, and he knew that Fenech was good, but he saw him at the Olympics. He thought he could beat him, so he took the fight. Anyway, they come to Australia, and Jeff at this stage is fighting, and he's at bantamweight, and he's really struggling to make weight. And Jeff was a monster between fights. He was so big, and he was a monster when he got in the ring. But when he fought, he had to get so much weight off, and nobody got the weight off like Jeff. But when he fought McCrory, they trained him and trained him and trained him. And in the end, they thought, we just can't get this weight off. So they took him away to a health retreat in the Blue Mountains. So they went out there and basically they just sat there and boiled leaves and ate them and had to train all day. And basically it was trying to get the weight off Jeff. But part of it being the team atmosphere was they all decided to go out. When Bill found out you couldn't smoke there, Bill said, mate, I'm not going, okay? But
Break
Johnny
even.
Lewis and all of a couple of boys from the gym, and Johnny Lewis and a couple of trainers, they all went out and got in there. And Johnny used to pay a bloke on the quiet, give him a few bucks, a kid out there, to jump the fence, run down to the corner shop, get a couple of Mars bars, and sneak it back into the health retreat. But they all tried to sort of pretend that they're all doing the job together and trying to fast together. But even after that, Fenech was still about a kilo and a bit overweight, a couple of pounds overweight. So day before the fight, Johnny said, mate, we just can't get this weight off you. And back then you had to make weight. Now they give you a little bit of latitude. So we can't get this weight off you. And Jeff Jeff was okay. He said, look, we'll just fight. It's okay. The fight will still go ahead. We'll just fight a couple of pounds heavier than the bantamweight limit. Anyway, what came out of that, Johnny rings Bill Morty up and says, Bill, we're going to fight. Jeff can't get the weight off, but it means we can't fight for the belts because he can't make the weight to fight at the belt, so we can't do that. And Bill goes, oh, shit, this has got to cost me a fortune. He said, and Johnny said, well, mate, we can't do it. We can't do it. So Johnny went back to Fenech and said, look, fight's going ahead, but, mate, we won't be doing it for the belts because you're going to be over the weight limit. At that, Fenech got the shits with that. He said, no, it has to be for the belts. And Johnny said, well, mate, it's impossible. If you don't make weight, we can't do it. So Fenech went home. He put on 3 tracksuits, a couple of garbage bags. He taped up his room. He's in his little apartment in Marrickville. He taped up under the doors and around the doors. He taped up the windows, and he got 3 or 4 coil heaters, turned them on, and he had Peter Matreski with him, his mate, and he started to skip. He skipped for hours.
Sacrifices.
And he skipped and skipped and skipped to try and sweat the last couple of kilos out of him. And in the end, he got down at about 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning. He said to Matreski, let's go for a run. He'd been skipping for hours in that room.
Amazing.
So he went and they went on a road run, came back, he weighed himself, and he hit weight.
Wow. So
he thought, I don't know. So his first thing he did was he went around to tell Johnny Lewis that he'd made weight, so he wanted to fight for the titles because the weigh-in was 4 or 5 hours. I think about 10 o'clock in the morning. So it was later that day.
Made the weigh-in?
Johnny said he went around and he said when he opened the door, he said Jeff was that drained, his skin was grey, and his first sentence out of his mouth was, oh, Jeff, what have you done? And Fenech said, mate, I've made weight. And he said, Jeff, look at you. He said, mate, you can barely stand up. He was that weak from it.
Yeah, made weight.
And anyway, so Johnny was terribly worried after that. They turned up at the weigh-in. Remember they used to do the weigh-in at No Names?
Yep.
Fenech used to have his mum's homemade pasta there and all the rest of it.
As Rick said earlier, put on 6 kilos straight after.
Yeah, 6 kilos. But so they turned up at the weigh-in. McCrory got there. He looked at Jeff and... yeah, okay, he's got the better of him. They weighed in. Jeff's tucked into a little bit funny business going on. There was a big shit fight at the scales. Emmanuel Stewart was training Steve McCrory. Yeah. He blew up about the scales, all the rest of it. Anyway, long story short, Fenech went away after that, tucked into his mum's pasta. When they went to the centre ring that night to get introduced before the fight, the referee calls them in. They come in and gives the final instructions. Steve McCrory's eyes changed when he saw how big Fenech had got in the space of about 12 hours. Fenech put on 6-7 kilos. Yeah. And when you're fighting at, 52, 53 it is around there, and suddenly you're walking in at 60, like most put on 3 or 4 tops. Fenech's done nearly double that.
Remember a 500%.
He's put another 12%.
Remember a 500 kilo horse? They put a kilo or 2 in the saddle. People don't realise how much difference it makes. A kilo or 2 in a 500 kilo horse makes a difference of half a nose, a length.
Yeah.
Rick, growing up as an amateur boxer, who did you idolise?
Always Ali.
Always Ali.
Always Ali, mate. Doesn't matter amateur, professional, whatever. You gotta give due respect where respect
why?
is. It's the greatest, mate. It's the greatest ever. There'll be no one. It was the champion amongst. There was only one or 2 divisions in. You're light heavyweight champion, you're heavyweight champion. There was a couple. Now you can be A, B, C, D champion.
So your opinion is Ali would beat Tyson at their best?
100%.
Okay.
No doubt.
See, I don't know.
We wouldn't lay to glove him. Foreman.
Talk us through that fight.
Yeah.
Ali Tyson.
Ali Tyson.
Well, Tyson would be more like Foreman, wouldn't he? Or more like
Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier. What happened to Frazier against Ali?
Well,
same thing.
He won possibly 2.
Who? Frazier? Is that what it says in the record books?
Well, in the record books, he says he won 1, lost 2. But in the untold story, I'll tell you this: the untold story of the Thriller in Manila, is that was the 3rd fight between them. Okay,
yep, correct.
Now at the end of the 14th round, Ali goes back to his corner, and they fought in that sweat box in the Philippines.
I remember this.
And they both were exhausted.
100%.
And Frazier hated Ali.
They
hated him.
Yeah, and Ali.
He said, I want his heart. That's what he said before the fight. I want his heart. Anyway, at the end of the 14th round, they're both exhausted. Ali went out, got the early lead. Frazier came back. Ali came back, started to win a few rounds towards the end. When they got to the end of the 14th, Ali goes and sits down. And he says to Angelo Dundee, his trainer, cut my gloves off. I'm done. And Angelo Dundee says, mate,
Never done that before.
but he goes, this is for the championship. He said, we're not cutting no gloves off. And he said, cut them off, I'm done. He said, I can't go another round, I'm done. Cut them off. And Dundee's trying to talk to him. Ali was a bit like that. He had to sit there, and sometimes he had to cajole him along. In the other corner, Eddie Futch, who was Joe Frazier's trainer, he looked at Joe Frazier, who had one eye completely closed. He couldn't see out of it. The other eye was heavily bruised and swollen. And so Frazier had that peak of like that crouching style. And so the fight Ali to actually see out of his eye that was closing, the only eye that he could see at the time, he had to sort of put his head up so he could see under the swelling in his eye. Mm-hmm. Now, out of that, because of that, it became easier for Ali to hit. But with one round to go, Eddie Futch said, son, you're taking too much punishment, I'm going to stop the fight. And Joe Frazier says, mate, you're not stopping that. He goes, his quote was, I want this half-breed's heart on a plate. Right, that's what he said about that's at the end of the 14th. Yeah. And Eddie Futch says, no, I'm going to stop the fight. He said, you stop this fight, I will never speak to you again. And he said, I'm stopping the fight. So in one corner, you got Ali, the fighter, saying, stop the fight, I'm done. And the trainer saying, no, you got one more round in you. In the other corner, you've got the trainer saying, mate, I'm going to stop the fight. And the fighter going, mate, give me this. He still wanted to knock him out, Frazier. So Eddie Futch said to him, he said, sit down, son. He said, no one will ever forget what you did here tonight, which was magnificent. But the thing is, Angelo Dundee picked up that something was going on in Frazier's corner, so held off quitting on behalf of Ali. And basically what it was is Eddie Futch quit for Frazier to protect Frazier. And he said he did it for his kids, right? And Marvis Frazier, his son and all that, they said they're always thankful for Eddie Futch for doing that because his father was... could
have lost an eye, could have lost a life,
and spent weeks, spent some time in hospital after. But out of that was Frazier didn't speak to Eddie Futch after that.
Okay, that fascinates me.
Integrity.
What if I'm talking what ifs now? Come 15th round, and they both don't come out. What happens there?
We can't. One's got to quick first.
Yeah, but double knockout. It's been double knockout before. I don't know.
Has it ever happened?
It's never happened. No. Both of them can't quit. I don't know. Never happened. But sorry, to answer your question, mate. So how tall was Frazier?
I think he's about 5'11".
Tyson.
No, Tyson's smaller than that,
5'10".
Big difference.
5'10".
Okay.
Yeah, big difference.
And Ali would win with a jab?
Ali would win with a jab. He'd hit him with that many punches and things surrounded. Tyson's
Paul
a strong,
disagrees.
good
Paul
fighter.
Disagrees.
I know he does, but we'll never agree on it.
I think Ali gets it. But
see, I don't know. I'm asking the question, yeah.
Tyson struggled with big heavyweights. It's whether Ali was a big heavyweight. So you put all Tyson's. He struggled at that elite level.
He hit like a big heavyweight.
Yeah, but the reach and just he lost that peak of his style towards the end of his career.
Mate,
Ali
went to the Olympics.
We're never going to know.
Ali went to the Olympics, got a gold medal. Ali became a world champion and won a world championship. Right? There's not many boxers that do both. Lennox Lewis did, right?
Yeah.
But Tyson didn't even make the Olympics. Yeah. Maybe it was a bit of politics there, but Tyson didn't have a style for the amateurs.
Terrell Biggs went to the Olympics in place of him.
Yeah.
And Tyson fought him as a pro and knocked him out.
See? That's it, styles.
Look, what I do know is rugby league, you can't compare players of the 70s to players now. It's a totally different game. Yeah. Correct, Paul? We all agree. Yeah. The athletes, they train different. But boxers, you can compare. Is that correct?
Kind of. Look, we still compare footballs too. Like I know the training's different. Boxing training hasn't changed a lot, relatively in regards.
It's more explosive now than the players back then.
In comparison to other sports, it hasn't.
It's full time now.
Yeah, but the heavyweights have got bigger. See, that's one of the arguments about rugby league. Okay, so rugby league and all this concussion debate, and this is where people talk about the concussions and they go, players are bigger these days than they were in the old days. That's why it's more concussions. Bigger, faster, more impact. Right? So we all agree with that. Okay?
Totally.
So we all agree they're faster, bigger, more impact. My argument against that, though, is if you look at boxing, the heavyweights, forget the lower weights because you've still got middleweights weigh the same today as they did back in the 50s.
Talk about the heavyweights, yeah, of course.
But the heavyweights, so Rocky Marciano was 5'11", and he fought at about 190 pounds, right? Which is about, what's that?
80-something kilos.
80, high 80, early 90 kilos. Yeah. Joe Lewis was the same, okay? So Joe Lewis, he fought about 190 pounds as well.
Okay.
I know
where you're coming.
Now, out of that, then Ali came along. Ali was a big heavyweight at the time. He was 200 pounds when he fought Fraser. He got up to about 220 pounds, which is about 100 kilos.
100 kilos.
About 100 kilos when he was fighting Fraser and that towards the end of his career. Now you look at Tyson Fury, who's 136 kilos. You look at Deontay Wilder, who he walks around 125.
Totally different for heavyweights. I agree, yeah.
But the knockout ratios, even though the heavyweights are much bigger these days than they were back in the day, right? The same as footballers are much bigger these days than they were back in the day. The knockout ratios in heavyweight fighters hasn't grown significantly. It hasn't got bigger because bigger bodies can absorb bigger impact. That's the flip side. If you're Tyson Fury and you hit Wilder, you're a big guy hitting another big guy. So you're absorbing the punch as much as you're exerting theoretically more force because you're bigger.
Yeah, I can understand that.
You're also you're able to absorb more force because you're bigger.
Yeah.
And that's the same, I think, in some respects with rugby league, where the players, yes, they are bigger, but they're also their opponents are bigger as well.
Yeah.
So it's like for like. And if the boxers aren't knocking each other out more often now because of the size, then why a rugby league? Or is it the technique in rugby league?
I think, can I answer that? I
can
can answer boxing. But in boxing, if you've got a bloke that's 5'10" and you take his head measurements, and you've got a bloke that's 6 foot or 7 foot, you take his head measurements, the jaw's about the same size, mate. So it's the power of the hit, I think, is and the jaw. You can't train your jaw, so you either can get hit or you can't get hit. But I'm going.
But your body absorbs.
Is that what they talk about a glass?
100%. 100%.
But that's what I'm saying. Your jaw's okay. The jaw and the.
You either can or you can't get hit.
I don't know what you're trying to tell me then.
I'm trying to say some people can get hit, some people can't get hit.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter on your size.
No, it's all the same. I'm saying the same. If you're 6 foot tall or 5 foot tall, you got the same size head.
Some can take the punch, some can't.
Some can, some can't. It's something to do with the way the brain bounces around your head, I think. I don't know.
Rugby league, we can't go anywhere near the jaw, Rick.
Yeah, but it's not the jaw, mate. No offence. I don't know much about
for boxing.
In boxing, if you get knocked out, you get a month off. One time you get knocked out, you get a month off. You get knocked out second time in the ring, you got to pass a strong medical and usually 3 months off. If you're knocked out three times in a row, they won't register you, mate. So in rugby league, I'm not sure, but if you get concussed, you come out and play tomorrow. But it's not I don't know why they're concentrating on the head, because you got these blokes are like semi-trailers running at each other. You got blokes on the bench, they're relaxing, they're not training. They come on and do 10-minute bursts, and they're running at each other. It's like collisions, mate.
Let me ask you this then. So right now, the protocols in rugby league, you got type 1 and type 2 HIA assessments, right? One is if you show signs of a concussion, you get up, you wobble, you close your eyes on the ground, you stay on the ground, you're off, you can't come back.
That's right.
Other ones, if they see a head knock and they have concerns, they take you off. And if you pass your test in the dressing room, then you're allowed to come back on.
After 15.
So let's just go through a couple of things there, right? So firstly, to do that, we've all seen fighters who have been clearly knocked out. We saw Tyson Fury in his last one of his more recent fights. I can't remember who. I think it was.
He was just having a nap,
was
mate.
it Wilder that he fought, and you could see him actually wake up on the canvas. You could see him on the canvas, lay there. He was clearly concussed, and all of a sudden his eyes just sprang open, and you could see he was
visualising that he was going to get up.
But he suddenly he was cognizant of where he was and what was happening, and it was almost like a trigger went off. He got up and came back from that, won the fight. Now, if that was rugby league, he wouldn't have been allowed to get up, okay? But rugby league, they do the test, but if you don't pass the test, you're out now for 11 days. But you're also in boxing, you're already out for a month.
First of all, we do the test before we get in the ring. So you got to pass the physical before you get in the ring.
Yeah.
Then you get knocked. If you get knocked out, instant month off.
Yep.
Twice, 3 times, I think you got to get a doctor to pass you in a medical board. But no offence, mate. My head's connected to my body. Yeah. So if you attack my head, I understand. But if you hit me in the chest and my body stops and goes that way, my head's doing the same thing, mate. So the brain, mate, figure out the head. It's either a contact sport or it's not a contact sport.
Do you think rugby league's doing the right thing, or do you think they're not doing enough? Or do you think
they're not concentrating on the problem. The problem is people are sitting on the bench resting, and they're missiles, mate. They're coming on every. Yeah. I know they haven't rest forwards. Haven't rest. I'll run on it and run into that bloke 10 times, and it doesn't matter if you hit the head or the body. The body stops, the head stops with it. And the brain bounces around in your head. It doesn't matter if you hit the head or the jaw or whatever, but if you get hit in the body and you're doing that way and he's coming that way and he's clash, mate, the brain just bounces around in your head. It doesn't matter about the head. It's a contact sport, and you've got to be as safe as you can, but they're hydrated these days. We're dehydrated. You just got to do a scan on their head, see where they're at level of brains going on there, and then do a scan every year and say, look, mate, you've got a bit of damage. Maybe you should pick another path. Not stop the sport every 10 seconds. They're grown men in a contact sport. You imagine if you had to say to a boxer, oh, you look like you're a bit wobbled. No, we're not going to not let you get knocked out. We're going to stop the fight now and say he won because you got a bit wobbled. That's not sport, mate. We're in a contact sport.
Yeah,
I get that.
We're going to an area that's very, very.
But the thing is too, like, a lot of people
Preserve
ask me,
people, 100%.
A lot of people ask me about how I can sit there and be a fan of boxing when I also can be critical of the NRL with their concussion, okay, and what's happening in the game there. And the difference, I think, to answer that question,
team sport.
Well, no, one is that boxing, that's the motive in the game, okay? You're there to do that. So the fighters,
someone unconscious.
Well, the fighters go into the contest accepting that they're going to get punched in the head and there's a chance they could be concussed. In rugby league, the rules are you are not allowed to hit the head, and you're not allowed to go and try and knock someone out. So it's against the rules in rugby league. The second thing is you're not allowed to be a professional fighter in Australia until you've turned 18, by which stage you are legally an adult and you can make up your mind about what you want. Oh, yeah, and we don't want to come in and legislate for everything. If you want to become a fighter, go and become a fighter. If you want to ride a motorbike, take the risk. Four-wheel drive's going to knock you over the guardrail. That's what you do. We're all adults. We make our decisions.
Correct.
But the rugby league, the ARL Commission, the NRL, the Commission specifically, they are responsible for running rugby league right down to under sixes. Okay, so from that respect, they have to mandate rules that look after those kids as much as they look after the NRL players, and that's why they've got to have these rules in place, and that's why you have this discrepancy, I suppose, in opinions about why you're able to like rugby league but not like the concussions in it, and why you are allowed to also like boxing, which does have concussions.
The rules working, Paul. The concussion rules.
No, I don't think they are. I think the tackling
style. That's why I'm asking.
The tackling style's got to change. I've sort of been banging on about this a little bit lately, but the game is allowing this tackling style where primarily I think what it is, John, and you correct me if I'm wrong. You know what you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
but they allow this tackling style where defenders are coming in and basically coming in over the ball to make the first contact.
The first contact. It's not the legs anymore like it used to be.
It's not the legs.
Yes.
It's not even around the waist anymore,
No,
John.
it's
The old
not.
days, you used to hitting the waist under the ball. Now the first guy comes in, hits over the ball, which then leaves enough body room for the second defender to come in, hit then under the ball. Then the third defender comes in and goes to the legs primarily, and that's the way they bring you down, okay? But it's it's the upright style that's the problem.
And you want to cut that out?
Well,
you want to reduce the numbers in there?
I don't know. No, I don't think.
How are we going to stop the offload, Paul?
Yeah, John. Okay, I get that. I know that's why they do it. That's why that's why they do it. I'm not a moron here, right?
Yeah,
I know why they do it. Okay, but the fact is this: they are still getting the concussions. Now, the only way you can get out of the game is to actually bring in penalties that will encourage coaches to try and find another style. Coaches create the problems. Coaches are also the ones smart enough to create the solutions. That's the one thing the rugby league does not acknowledge. They sit there at the end of the year and they'll get the coaches in and have a few in for a meeting for a few rule changes. But no coach will take the risk right now to change a tackling style because it won't win. Right? I know that. I get all that.
We play to win, mate.
But I get all that. But at some point, if we keep going down this path, if we keep going down this path, there will be some sort of legal ramification that will be significant on the game. Phil Gould says, we are heading towards a game where lawyers and doctors will rule the game. Okay, and that's because that's all the protocols that we're being asked to, as rugby league is being asked to address. They are doing that, but the problem with it is, it's not really arresting the problem. It's changing the problem. It's just moving the parameters of the argument further along the scale, but we're still having the problem. The way you've got to do it is you've got to get buy-in from the coaches at some point.
Do you think they're going to agree, Paul?
John, I know that.
I know.
You're not telling me anything I don't know.
That's the problem we
but
got.
that's what I'm saying.
That is the problem we got because it started from the wrestle.
Okay, it starts,
That's correct.
So so this is again. Let's peel it right back to what I'm saying.
That's where it all
The
comes
way
from.
you've got to do it, though, the only way then, if this is, you
They've all
keep
got to
saying
agree.
that you can,
As
they've all
collective,
got to
you've got
do
to
it.
agree.
So how do you get them to do it? How do you get them to do it? You know how you do it? You start putting their players on the sideline for more significant periods than what they're getting now. If coaches were losing players, instead of losing, for example, we've had a crackdown now, or well, not crackdown ordered, we've had the NRL respond this week to 4 incidents over the weekend
Yes,
that all should have been resulted in sin bins.
100%.
That didn't result in sin bins, okay, but should have been. Now, rather than sin bins, if we said to the game, or the game said to the coaches and the clubs, we're not going to sin bin you. We're going to sit you down for a minimum 4 weeks, right? The first thing, that will then make the coaches go, you know what, we need to figure out a way around this
We need
because
to
we
change
can't
this.
take the risk for our players to be on the sideline that long. So we're going to try and change our tackling style. Now, no one will do it now. No one wants to say, you know what, for the good of the players, we'll change our style because they'll be the first coach unemployed. They'll get sacked because they'll start losing games because right now this is the most effective tackling style. But until they change this, right, and it's got to be coach-driven. That's what the game doesn't understand. Until it's coach-driven. Now, as I said, the coaches have created the problem.
That's right.
Let the coaches figure out the solution because they will figure it out. But you've got to give them enough incentive to do that. The incentive is keep the players on the park. Now, at the NRL, at the moment, the NRL's not taking them off the park,
No, they're
so
not.
there's no incentive.
Is this year gone? Or we focus on next year for
Of
doing
course
it?
it's gone.
It's
Of
gone.
course it's gone.
It's
Look,
gone.
and John, the other thing is this. The wrestle and the modern tackling style didn't come in one season. It took years to develop into this. It's going to take
And
a
who
long
does it
time to
better?
develop
Yes,
out of this.
Yes.
But the flip side is how many junior footballers do you see these days getting knocked out? Now, back in the day, when you were growing up and you were a superstar outside centre, Rick,
Not left or right, outside centre. Yeah.
you're outside centre.
Left, right, out.
Scoring 8 tries a game. Go
But
on.
when
Nine,
that was
I did.
happening,
9, he said.
but
Hey.
how many times you get knocked out as a kid?
I don't think I did, Paul.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
That's
See,
the honest truth. I don't think I did.
so I don't think I did
Boot
either.
lace
and I'm
tackles,
sure
Keith
the
Holm-
outside centre didn't.
Remember the late, was it Keith
I was
Holman?
too quick.
I think was it Keith Holman that played for Western Suburbs halfback? He used
Yep.
to come in and teach us how to tackle around the leg.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Yes. Then, as you know, Paul, they want to slow the game down. We know.
Get it, John.
We know who started all
I
this.
get it. But
We
what
know
I'm
who's
saying
started.
I know, and
to
I'm
you-
not a footballer.
But you get my point.
I get your point 100%.
It has to be coach driven, and at some point,
It has to be
the
coached.
game has
But-
to give
okay.
incentivize the coaches to do it, and the only way you can incentivize the coach, unfortunately for coaches, it's not the carrot, it's the stick. That's the only thing they understand. Do you like
course.
that one, Rick? Did you like?
I like that one.
We want them all to come in and agree to it.
Well, they won't agree until you
That's
start
right.
It's
putting their players on
reward.
the
It's
sideline.
reward driven.
So maybe
It's
we do
success
this-
driven.
Maybe we start doing that this year, and then next year it might happen.
John, it's not going to be 1 year. It's not going to happen in 1 year.
No, that's true.
It's going to take years to
But we've got to start
turn
somewhere. Paul.
around.
We've got to start
It has
somewhere.
to start
Has to start.
because I do fear that one day the game will be driven by
Lawyers and
lawyers. So right now, like Rick's just spoke about what happens in boxing. So you compare rugby
A
league
punch
to
or a tackle,
boxing.
yeah.
Well, you just compare rugby league to boxing. Their protocols. If you get knocked out in boxing, you get longer on the sideline than rugby league. Now this did become part of the conversation
15
in the
days,
NRL
man.
some years back. Okay.
15 days.
So they spoke about, well, this is what boxing does. Month on the sideline for a concussion. Why don't we look at doing the same? Because that's obviously their boxing.
Well, why don't they?
Do you want to know why?
Yes, I do.
Because then he's not on
Because
the paddock for 4
they
weeks.
said, we'll finish the season with no players. It's too long. In a 24-week season or a 24-game season, losing a player for 4 weeks, and then if he gets a second concussion
Yeah,
and
you're
he's
right.
out for 3 months, which is the boxing one, there's half the season gone.
Yeah,
so
you're
you look at poor Victor Radley. It's round 5 this week.
If he was
he's
a
already
boxer, he'd never box
he's
again.
already been offered 2 HIAs.
So if he was a boxer, he would never box again.
In
Well,
the amateur, that's how it would be.
well, I
He'd have
don't-
to
I
he'd have
don't-
the clearance.
He'd be ruled out for at least 12
well,
months.
he'd have a significant time on the
Yes.
sideline, and that's the issue. Like, but that's what I'm saying.
Interesting.
So
yes,
that's where
yes,
boxing has said, well, the NRL said we can't copy boxing's protocols because
yes. There'd be no
we'll run
players.
out of players.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
And having too long, you imagine Nathan Cleary's already had 1 concussion, right? He's back this weekend.
Best player in the game.
If he gets a second one, you said, okay, he's now out for 3 months. Like,
What stops opposition players, opposition coaches saying that we've got to target the best player in the game.
Well,
Or the best player in the team.
Well, what
Think
should-
about it.
But,
Yeah.
but John, what should stop them
Yeah.
is if a player hits someone high,
Gets the
he's
yeah.
got significant time. And
Yes.
that goes back to my original
And it's
point.
not
Not
happening.
10 minutes.
It's not happening.
It's not happening at the
Well,
moment.
they're not even getting 10 minutes.
They didn't even
But
get sin bin, Paul. Rick. It's
Mate,
ridiculous.
as I
And the-
said, I know my sport. It's
Paul,
one-on-one. He's
the
very responsible.
referees got axed, correct? Over 2 incidents?
2 referees got axed, and the one video referee who did 2 games has been
The
axed.
bunker and the touchy. That was a different, that was a different episode.
That's a
That was
different thing. But
yeah.
no, the touchy's still going. So they have been axed, okay?
Yeah.
But yeah, and
But
everybody's frightened this
Axed to
weekend.
where? Axed, I'm just curious. Axed to where?
Well, they just
There's no
gone back-
reserve grade.
Well, I don't know where they're going.
We'll have a week off.
Maybe they got their feet up for the week.
Maybe they got a month off.
Doesn't matter where they're
Okay,
going. But,
they're gone.
but they're not refereeing this weekend.
Okay.
But the thing is this. So that they've gone away, and the NRL's responded. Everyone's now worried about a crackdown. The NRL haven't ordered a crackdown. The NRL haven't actually changed any directions towards the referees. All they've said is the referees over the weekend failed to act as they should have, and in future those incidents will be penalised with a sin bin or perhaps even a send-off. So it wasn't like the NRL have changed their interpretation or have said to the game, we're looking at things differently. They have just said a couple of referees failed to do what they should have done so that they are still going on the
Okay.
same speed.
If it happened next week, the same incident, player gets sin binned, coach is going to complain, isn't he? Well,
Well,
why
who
didn't it
cares
happen?
if he complains?
Yes, exactly. But
Who cares?
why didn't that happen last week? Now
Yeah,
you've
but who
got-
cares?
I agree with you.
Who
I agree.
cares?
I agree.
So, and that's what the NRL's got to say. But see, the NRL go, oh, well, yeah, they'll try and explain it. Now, the answer for the NRL is, who cares? You are not allowed to make direct forceful
100%
contact,
agree with you.
direct
Yeah.
forceful contact to the head. That is in the rules. You're
Yes.
not, and as a ball runner, this is the other thing. As a ball runner, you are entitled to
protect
run
it.
the ball at the defensive line where you know there's at least 3 guys
Yeah.
there who are going to jam in on you.
And you can protect
You
yourself.
are entitled to run into that line,
Knowing,
You might hit a head.
assuming you won't get hit across the chin.
yes.
You're entitled to do that. And yeah, people sometimes complain to me when a defender gets knocked out. Well, why wasn't the ball runner charged? Well, that's just stupid. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a dumb thing to say.
Yeah.
Because the fact is, as a ball runner, you've got 3 people sometimes 4 people that you've got
Bend you
to
backwards.
take into account.
Yeah.
You can't keep your eye on all 4 or the actions of all 4. But as a defender, as you've got one person you need to worry about, which is the guy with the ball. Therefore, the responsibility is incumbent upon you to actually make sure you do not do anything illegal. And it's also, to be fair, it's also incumbent on the defender to put his own head in a position where he doesn't get knocked out, which is increasingly happening, isn't it?
It's scary. It's.
I don't know where the game goes, but until the game starts to drive it from head office to get this out of the game and to try and change this upright tackling style where they try to catch, it's gone from just a straight catch to now sort of almost a catch/hit. The first guy tries to jam in, stop the momentum for the others to come in on the side, each side,
Freight train.
and finish the tackle. Okay, it's a lot of body parts to get in to what essentially is a small area, and that's why heads are getting hit, because it's just the impact zone, the target zone, is a small area, and you try to get your shoulder in there. You try to put your head in a safe spot. The guy next to you is trying to get his shoulder in there somewhere. He's
It's
trying
free
to
head
keep his
somewhere.
head in a safe spot. They just don't all fit. So heads are getting hit.
It's the unfortunate.
Is it anyway? Like in boxing, we said the month off because we probably didn't have ways of monitoring if there was damage. It's the year 2025. Can't we just do a check on everyone?
Yeah, but the
we
point
got-
is, mate, he just said,
Yeah.
we're going
We'll
to
do a
keep doing
check
this.
and then see how they're
We're going to
going,
run
mate.
out of players, Rick.
No, but we're not. Mate,
This could be
first
done.
thing we
There
want
might
is
be
everyone to be
some,
safe,
mate. There
mate.
might be some.
Check and then
look
check at the end of the season how you're going. Don't, mate. It's a contact sport. We're adults.
Yeah.
It's a
All right.
contact sport. We're adults, mate.
It's been a great show, Paul. I've really enjoyed this. I love the banter between you two.
Well, the banner.
Great
What did you
banter.
call me?
The banter.
The outside centre.
The outside centre. Well, you mate self-confessed outside centre.
No, Rick, I said earlier, you should be proud of yourself, mate.
Thank you,
Great
man.
career,
As,
what
as you
you've
know,
done.
I like a bit of confidence, but I got glamorexia.
Glamourexia. Can you
Yeah.
please explain to the people what the glamourexia
Look in the
is?
mirror and think I'm a good sort.
Oh, I know that.
That'll do me,
Thank
Paul.
you for tuning
That'll do
in.
me.
Just look, same Kenty Prime Time, Kenty Blitz. We are on Apple iTunes. We're on Spotify, YouTube. Go and subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Can't wait.